What's up, y'all? I've been thinking about this for a while, so I figured why not just make a video about it? So I'm just going to dive right into it. Let's go. Elon Musk, one of America's richest men, says we need a brand new political party. But is Elon right? Do we need a third party that actually represents the 80% of Americans, as Elon tweet suggests? Or would a new party just be a new class of elite actors with their new agendas? Let's do a quick recap on how we got here. In 2024, Elon jumped headfirst into the presidential race and publicly endorsed now President Donald Trump. He pumped major money into Trump's campaign, helping to secure a Trump victory. Then, on day one, Trump signed an executive order creating DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and placed Elon at the helm with the promise to cut waste and modernize the government. Now, I think a lot of people could say cutting government waste is a good thing. But then, eventually, that bromance came to an end.
We are in this together.
I hate you.
Musk blast Trump's big beautiful bill, calling it outrageous, port-filled congressional spending bill and a disgusting abomination. So while Trump is telling Elon, hey, I'm going to put you in charge of this thing to cut wasteful spending, he then created a bill that Elon basically says, well, this is going to create more debt than what I'm going to save. And if anybody knows Elon, he really doesn't like his time wasted. So to me, Elon is probably looking at this as, oh, he just put me in a puppet role. So Elon then went on to threaten to form the America Party if the bill passed. Well, if you've been keeping up, the bill has passed. So we will see if this America Party is actually formed. So we do have to pose the question, though, is Elon Musk right? Do we as Americans now need a third party that he claims will represent the 80% in the middle? I'm going to give y'all my answer. So let me get straight to the point. My answer is no.
No, 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 no.
In my opinion, a new party will just get sucked into the same incentives, promising voters one thing, but instead they will govern for big donors and insiders. The rules of politics, y'all, have been corrupted. And unfortunately, through fear tactics over the years, we have handed over more and more power to the government. And the only way that we can have that power back is to amend the rules to put more power back into the hands of the people.
True power is yours, not the government's.
So I do agree with Elon that something needs to be done. Something definitely needs to be changed. But I think we need a pivot and to find a different approach to that change. Instead of a new party, we should focus on amending the process by how our government runs. We need engaged citizens to be active participants in the new lawmaking process, even after representatives and politicians have been elected. Because let's be honest, most politicians, their strategy is just to lie for the seat, then they turn their backs on the weak.
Don't you turn your back.
So how do we make a change? How do we regain the power we have given over to the government? For me, I believe the answer lies in decentralization and democratization. Decentralization is about who holds the decision-making power and then spreading that power out when it makes sense or if it becomes necessary. And I think we can all agree that the government has been broken for a while. So it might be a necessary time for that to happen.
Is this necessary? It's very necessary.
And democratization is about who gets to participate in the systems or systems we create. Let's be honest, there's been a lot of gatekeeping throughout history, and that in itself has put people at a big disadvantage. We need to eliminate those gatekeepers so that more people can participate. Decentralization is about breaking up the where of the power, and democratization is about broadening the who of the power. For example, decentralization, in my opinion, is what caused America to become a beacon of light around the world. America fought the Revolutionary War. Why? Because the colonies were sick and tired of decisions being made thousands of miles away by people who didn't live here. It was about independence. It was about decentralizing power away from the British crown and bringing it back to the people living in America. No taxation without representation. Isn't that how a lot of us feel? The government keeps taking more from us, but I don't feel like it's representing us. Now, let's expand on what happened after the Revolutionary War. George Washington famously rejected the idea of kingship, and instead, the Constitution of the United States was formed, and America further showcased the concept of decentralization by creating three branches of government that shared power: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. And these branches would hold checks and balances on each other. Also, federalism, in a sense, is a form of decentralization as well. National governments versus state governments versus local governments, and the delineation of that power. YouTube, I think, is a good example of decentralization and democratization, although YouTube is definitely centralized. So if YouTube is centralized, why do I still say it's a good representation of decentralization? So I say YouTube is an example of decentralization because I believe they have played a pivotal role in fracturing the power hold on monopolistic industries. Let's take, for example, legacy media and news outlets. They basically control the narrative of what people were told and therefore controlled how the majority of people would think.
Controlling their minds by terror and intimidation.
Y'all, that is serious power. But YouTube came along and allowed many people and organizations to present alternative perspective from mainstream news, therefore decentralizing that power over perception. And perception for many people is reality. That's why I consider this a huge shift of power, in my opinion. Now, YouTube, like I said, is definitely controlled by Google, and I've heard a lot of people complain about their terms and services, their algorithms, and being shadow banned. But, and this is a big but, I cannot lie.
I like big books and I cannot lie.
It is democratizing the human consciousness, which has allowed people to start new businesses, movements, teach each other how to do things, and share forgotten knowledge.
I appreciate you sharing that with me.
And although all of this sounds positive, and it is positive, the danger comes in who controls the algorithms and the terms of service, because this could also lead to a new type of re-centralization. We saw that during COVID, lots of people's accounts were banned or taken away because of what they said was fake news, basically. People spreading lies. But we found out that some of those things were true. If you really sit back, though, and look, the elite always fear decentralization and democratization. But when it does occur, it usually makes life better
Because my life is way better.
for the 80%, the same target audience that Elon is talking about representing with his American Party. For example, voting, a lot of us take it for granted. But remember, initially, only landowners were allowed to vote in America, and others were restricted by their gender, their race, religious affiliation. Having more people have a voice in who is elected has reshaped America in so many positive ways. But that had to happen over time. Over time, barriers were broken down and more people were allowed to vote. Another form of decentralization is the stock market. Let's talk about the pockets now. Let's talk about the Benjamins. The stock market and the rise of online brokers allowed more people to invest on their own, which created wealth for many people and increased funding for innovation. And now we even have fractionalized stocks, which when I first started seeing this become mainstream, I said to a lot of people, this is going to take the stock market to new all-time highs, and it has. It's going to make more people participate, which it did, and therefore it created a lot of wealth, because instead of a person having to have the money to buy one stock, if they got $20 in their pocket, they could say, you know what, let me put $20 on Apple, and if Apple goes up 10%, that $20 still goes up 10%, and they're able to make money. So by bringing online brokers online, that was one form of decentralization, which put more money in people's hands. Then by fractionalizing stocks, they lowered the barrier to entry.
Open the gates.
That gatekeeping I'm talking about, which made more people participate. And overall, it has caused the stock market to go up. And lastly, let's talk about the internet itself. The internet has democratized and decentralized so many things, and it has allowed for the creation of trillions of dollars of value for people all over the world. So what can we do to share more power and make our systems more inclusive? Well, we need to start brainstorming. We need to start coming up with common folk ideas and then sharing those ideas. Some ideas will be terrible, but even terrible ideas will light the path to great ones.
But we need more ideas. We need your ideas.
We can't keep allowing the elected and the elite to come up with all the solutions for our problems. The way I see it, moving forward, when we elect somebody, there should already be good ideas on how to fix some of these problems and pseudo policies that the general public are well aware of. And who we should be looking for are people to champion those good ideas. This way, when candidates are campaigning, we can have debates on well thought out solutions already proposed and discussed by concerned citizens in the public already. I am tired, and I don't want the vague, ambiguous promises from politicians that never get kept anymore.
No, I'm tired of your broken promises.
I know y'all remember the infamous Project 2025 that was put out by the Heritage Foundation that polarized America. Although I didn't agree with most of what I heard about Project 2025, I was inspired by it. Why was I inspired by Project 2025? Because it was the first time, for me, I was introduced to the concept of a political think tank, an organization whose sole purpose was to craft policies detailing a step-by-step playbook on what needs to be done and exactly how it could be achieved.
Carefully, step by step.
This was the moment I realized Americans need an organized yet decentralized playbook as well.
Bring your playbook.
Because I think we would find out really, really quick that the majority of us are more in the middle. And there are some extreme topics that we disagree on that pull us left or right.
We're on the same side.
Now, a majority of topics that we would agree on, we simply don't, because of so-called loyalty to the parties that want us at odds with each other. So they'll take a big polarizing topic and then they'll link it to other things that most people will find fairly reasonable. And then we start having this divide over common sense things because of the bigger things that the party puts forward as what we should be voting on. But there's a lot of stuff in the middle that we just go along with because of the big overall glaring elephants in the room. So instead of a new party, what else do I think Elon Musk can do? Well, Elon is a brilliant man. Some of y'all may not think so, but I happen to think the man has vision. And Elon currently owns X, formerly known as Twitter, which is a massive global social media platform. I have heard Elon had a vision of building X into an everything app one day.
I want everything.
One place he could start is by having a structured open source arm of X that serves as a national and global political and doesn't just have to be political think tank.
Think tanky.
Where good ideas rise and these ideas will be constantly critiqued and revised until a plausible version that 80% or at least a majority of people can support emerges. So it would have to be done in a structured way. It should be open to everybody though to frame new ideas on things that they see, and a way for people to vote, comment, critique those ideas so that it could continue to evolve. Now, I think we're starting to see with the rise of prediction markets like Polymarkets and Kalshi, we are starting to see the usefulness and increased accuracy of crowd participation. Let's not forget that this whole AI thing that everybody says will replace humans is simply just the mind data of global human consciousness put together. So I do not think that AI is a better substitute for the actual human brain. I think that AI coupled with the human brain is going to do lots of great things.
Together, they're going to do great things.
I think something like an X think tank is a much better idea than a new party, because parties centralize power and over time aligns themselves with the entities that promise to keep their party in power as long as they are rewarded for their support. And eventually the voice of the people become ignored once again.
Ignore, ignore, ignore.
Your party, left or right, always makes idle promises, but something like an X think tank could create a public scoreboard for any politician, red, blue, or brand new American party. They could publicly support ideas and a roadmap to get there before being elected, making it harder for them to lie to us by campaigning one way and then voting another.
Keep everybody honest.
So some of you might have already heard the word decentralization in crypto, but decentralization isn't just a new crypto thing. It really is an ethos that was pioneered by our founding fathers, and it needs a resurgence. There will be a lot of tough topics we will need to tackle as a society as technology continues to advance. Things like the rise of blockchain, AI, advanced robotics. More people need to have a voice. We need to be involved in the discussions and the decisions about our future, not just our representatives.
But I really need to be more involved.
The world is changing more rapidly than ever before, and the playbook of the enemy has always been to create division among the masses, centralize power, and convince people that we need someone else to solve our problems. I heard it was rumored that John D. Rockefeller once said, "I don't need a nation of thinkers, I need a nation of workers." Whether Rockefeller said this or not, this statement couldn't be further from the truth today. We need all people, young people, old people, to start thinking deeply about how things are and how they want things to be, especially when we disagree. We need to engage in discussion and debate because ultimately, this is how we build a better future for the world's inhabitants. Henry Ford said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is," which is probably the reason why so few engage in it. And I think this statement holds relevance whether you like Henry Ford's character in history or not. Now, I don't know that thoughtful thinking is necessarily hard, but I do believe it takes time and effort,
Yes, that can be very time consuming.
which too many people say they don't have because of their life commitments. Well, I heard before, if you fail to plan your life, someone else has a plan for you to fulfill theirs. So, as much as we have a lot of commitments in our lives, we need to start thinking again. We need to start coming up with our own solutions to our problems. And the ones that do engage in deep thinking, a lot of times are hesitant for whatever reason to share their ideas.
Stop holding yourself back.
I know this to be true because I feel I fall in that camp. I'm always thinking, but never sharing. This is my step forward to breaking that cycle. We always hear the statement, we need more people to become leaders. This is true, but we need context. We need context because when we voluntarily assign people to leadership roles in our lives, we tend to develop pseudo loyalty to that individual and we start to defend their questionable ideas because we've promoted their good ones in the past. This is called a halo effect or moral licensing, and we need to get away from that. So rather than needing a human leader per se,
Take me to your leader.
we need to disassociate the person from the idea and create greater pools of ideas with solutions from known and unknown thought leaders. So in order to do that, we need people to think. We need people to learn. This is why the Bible says the beginning of wisdom is to get wisdom. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. As my understanding of the world grows and how the world works, it's continually evolving. This is the reason now I no longer have an affiliation to any party. I will vote across party lines, but to be truthful, it's becoming harder to support anyone because as parties set agendas, if your representative thinks differently from the majority of the party, they're made or told to fall in line. And that becomes especially dangerous when your representative starts falling in line because they're no longer representing you. I think a lot of these representatives go to Capitol Hill with good intentions. And then they're realizing that, oh, well, I can't get this done unless I scratch the back of somebody else here. And they're like, well, I'll make this little compromise. And I think over time, those little compromises and compromises and compromises and compromises turn them into a totally different person.
I hardly recognize you.
So to sum this up, no, I don't think we need a brand new political party. Instead, we need a mechanism to get the real input from the real people with solutions to incorporate decentralization and democratization at a greater extent. With this channel, I hope to bring up topics that I believe are at the core of shaping society today. and I want to participate by adding solutions. I don't just want to bring you the news or tell you what's going on. I kind of want to give it a spin and an angle of, if I was in charge, this is what I would do. Now, some of my ideas may be terrible. They may lack areas of clarity. They may show signs of ignorance. But I hope it allows others to think, iterate, and come up with better solutions than I did. Things I hope to discuss are things like privacy versus transparency, digital IDs, looking at the good and bad, private markets, which I think are the epitome of gatekeeping. And I think that changes there can change America drastically. And so much more. So if you think an X think tank is a good idea or a bad idea, drop a comment, let me know. Also, if any of the things that I am talking about interest you, please hit the like button and subscribe. And hopefully I can inspire some of you to become great thinkers. Thank you. Love you. See you on the next one.